right, we'll go ahead and get started this afternoon with Coach Kelly. Coach, you'd like to make an opening statement?
Yeah, certainly excited about our win last weekend. Now we get back to ACC play and a team that we're familiar with in Wake Forest. Dave Clausen's done an incredible job there. I think 4 consecutive bowl teams that he has led, 4 consecutive years, his teams to bowls. So, it's a consistent winning program. Their kids know how to win. And he's got some dynamic players. He's got a first-round draft pick, and Carlos Basham. He's going to be a guy that we're going to have to game plan for. And we always know about their prolific offense, and really, really impressed with Sam Hartman. I mean, he's a guy that we saw a little bit about a couple of years ago, and he got injured, and Newman came in and took over for him. But he's a very talented quarterback. He's got arm talent. He's got a host of receivers that can, as they always have at Wake Forest, very, very good passing game, and a breakaway back. I think Walker is an outstanding back. He showed that against North Carolina State in particular. And Beal Smith is a 1-2 punch. So talented in the backfield, wide receivers that always, even though they had one of their top guys not play this year in Surratt, they still continue to line up very talented players. 3 starters back on the offensive line. And then again, as I mentioned, veterans on the defensive side of the ball. I know they're probably not happy with giving up the points they gave up, but this is a defense that has a lot of experience, played a lot of ACC games, and expect them to play very well against us. So we got to take care of our own things internally in terms of the day-to-day, and prepare ourselves to go on the road for the first time. So with that, we'll open it up to questions.
Coach, our first question is a 2-parter from Tom Noy and Eric Hansen of the South Bend Tribune. Last time Notre Dame played at Wake Forest, Ian Book made his first start as basically the full-time starting quarterback. How is he different, and how has he grown from that game in 2018?
Oh, I think like any quarterback, he's got the battle scars plus the success. 22-3, I believe, as a starter. That's a pretty good resume. If we knew that, we should have probably put him in sooner. He's had a great run since going in there. So where has he grown? Obviously, leadership, knowledge of the offense. Again, and you just can't duplicate experience. So I think just all of those games that he's played led us to victories, and just from our standpoint, just that consistent leadership and consistent winning when you're 22-3.
Our next question is from Phil Hoke and Lynn Clark. Saturday was an impressive show of depth, particularly on the defensive side. Can you comment on how to prepare your team and structure your program to develop the capabilities to successfully implement the next man in mentality?
Yeah, I think you look at it in terms of what you do in the off season. You come here with an expectation to play. So first and foremost is that, our players come here with the expectation that they're going to come here and compete. And so we make certain that all of our players are prepared. So off season, weight room, conditioning, we're making sure that all of those guys are understanding that their number might be called. And so we hold a standard and develop a standard that requires all of those players to be alert and be ready. There's no coasting. You don't take the year off and just, kind of say, all right, well, I'm not going to play. We keep everybody alert. And look, the new rule going in last year really helped a lot, quite frankly, when they got 4 games to play without losing eligibility. And certainly this year, where they don't lose any eligibility, it's kept everybody sharp and alert. So those 2 things are really working for you this year as well, where these guys are really engaged and know that they can be called upon at any time.
Our next question is from Mark Skoll of WNDU. Now that Braden Lindsay is back on the field, does he do to help the offense?
Well, vertical stretch. He's got great speed, and he's still a guy that you have to respect because we've seen what he can do with that kind of speed. It's just, again, he's going to have to continue to stay on the field, stay healthy, so he can build that consistency with Ian in terms of where he's going to be, in terms of running routes and being part of our offense. But he's getting healthy. I think this will be a great week for him to kind of continue to build on that relationship with Ian.
Our next question is from Tyler James of the South Bend Tribune. How much more of an impact is Myron Tagovailoa-Amosa making on the defensive line this year than he's been able to in the past?
Well, I think it's the natural development of a guy that not only has the physical tools, but awareness. He's a guy that you can't throw a screen against because he recognizes that. Certainly his athleticism, shows itself. But recognition of blocking schemes, just that awareness that you get with experience. So, again, I think we're talking in terms of guys that are now playing a lot of football that, going into this year now, Myron has a great sense of, what they're trying to do to him, and he can defeat blocking schemes, whether it's a run game or, savvy enough to understand whether it's a screen or a drop back pass. He's got a complete game.
Our next question is from Eric Hansen of the South Bend Tribune. We saw what Jordan Botello could do on special teams on Saturday. How is his development coming as an edge player, and how is his development impacted by not being on campus for the summer?
He's coming along quite well. He's actually a pretty quick study. He knows the game very well. And as you see, he plays with a bit of a reckless abandonment. He's got to clean up some of the other things, obviously. He's got to continue to show some real discipline, day in and day out. When it comes to how he handles himself on the field, we could have got a 15-yard penalty there at the end, and he knows that. Coach Elston's had a conversation with him, but we love his physicality. We love what he brings to the table at that position, and he's in a rotation with a lot of talented players. I don't think the summer really hurt him that much. It was a good learning experience for him, but I don't think that really put him behind.
Our next question is from Tyler James. Javon McKinley has shown a willingness and a knack for blocking at the wide receiver position. How important is it to set a standard for the rest of the receivers?
Yeah, he's our veteran guy, and I think when you have a guy that's been around as a fifth year that is setting that kind of standard and model, it rubs off on all the other guys. So he's influencing Jordan and Xavier and setting a great example, and we just got to continue to do that with everybody, and then we got to continue to get him involved in the offense as well.
Our next question is from Tyler James and Tim Priester. What does Sibo Flemister bring to the running back group that makes him different from some of the other backs?
I just think he's a hard runner. He's difficult to tackle. He plays with very, very low pads. I would say that, and I haven't done this yet, but I would say that his yards after first contact are as good as anybody that we have. Kyron's pretty good too, obviously, but he's a guy that you've got to wrap up. He's got that high knee kick and low pads, very difficult to tackle. I know our guys do not like to tackle him. He's very difficult to wrap up. So I think he's difficult to tackle. He's got really good vision, and again, with all those backs, they bring something a little bit different.
Our next question is from Doug Farmer of NBCSports.com. As the program handles a total of 10 players from last week with positive tests or quarantine from contact tracing, how do those players maintain some level of fitness over the next 2 weeks to prevent 14 days of impacting their whole season?
Yeah, we have a protocol in place relative to when they can be released. and it's been in place since June. So we'll continue to utilize that when we have players that are in quarantine. Isolation is a little different, obviously. If you're tested positive for COVID, you have to go through a different procedure and protocol. You've got to have a EKG and certainly a number of different evaluations first before you can come back. But the quarantine and isolation is a little bit different. So when they are able to test negative twice and they get to a second negative test, we can begin a modified conditioning program with those guys. So when they come back after 14 days on their own, they have a modified quarantine workout program that gets them back in pretty good shape.
Our next question is from Tim Priester of Irish Illustrated. How did you decide on Matt Salerno as your punt returner versus USF? He said you were more nervous about it than he was, so is that true?
Not really. It was just Matt. Matt's a really awesome kid, and when I went up to tell him that he was going to be the returner, I asked him if he was nervous, and he said no, but Coach, you look nervous. And I wasn't, because I was evaluating him, and Coach Alexander was, Coach Polian, we were all, and he was effortless back there. And he had been back there all camp. But we also had Kyron back there, and with Kyron's load and everything that he was doing, it just made sense to go with him, because he's, like I said, been effortless catching the football. No, he doesn't have maybe the kind of explosiveness that Kyron has, but you feel really comfortable with him back there. That's why we went with him.
Our next question is from Pete Sampson of The Athletic. In Tommy Rees and Clark Lee, you have two like-minded coordinators. Is there a benefit to having guys in those leadership roles who communicate and manage players in similar ways?
Absolutely. That's why I chose him. I think, in leadership positions, when there's great, not just communication, collaboration is very important today in business. And when you have great collaboration, communication, you have cohesion, and all those things equal efficiency on a day-to-day basis. We're able to work well together on the practice field. We're able to articulate offense and defense. Here's what we need to do offensively. Can you give us this look, Clark, on defense? All those things matter. And so when you have guys that are like-minded and don't have egos, and they're just about how we can be better as a football program. Yeah, absolutely. Those two guys work very well together, and it's very important.
Our next question is from Patrick Engel of Blue and Gold Illustrated. You were in 2 or 3 tight end sets for a large majority of Saturday's game. Was that due more to wanting to run the ball as much as you did, or a trend you want to see going forward?
No, we've been that's kind of developing our identity, right? The first couple of weeks, so you've seen a lot of 2 tight end sets. You've seen 3 tight end sets. We're deep there at that position. We want to be a team that's physical, that utilizes our tight ends as part of our weapons. We can be in spread as well. But it's less about game plan and more about who we are, if that's the question. And so you'll continue to see more, 2 tight end sets and sometimes, 3 tight ends.
Our next question is from John Finneran of the Associated Press. He noticed over the weekend that Florida State coach Norvell is sidelined by COVID. How is the health of your staff, and what are the perimeters in case someone is sidelined? And an update on who might take your place.
Yeah, it's serious, right? I mean, you've got to have a mask. Social distancing is important. We have to, be very, very serious. We have a succession plan in place for myself and, each and every coach on the staff in terms of the responsibilities and the duties. Mine are not singular in terms of one coach taking over. There are different responsibilities. I'm not going to get into who that person is at this time. Hopefully we don't have to, but we have it detailed out across the board, again, for all positions, from special teams down to wide receivers, including the head coach. So got to be vigilant, got to stay on top of it. Alluding to your question, could happen to anybody if you're not careful.
Our next question is from Brian Driscoll of Irish Breakdown. Wondering if you could expand a little bit more on what Wake Forest and Carlos Basham, being such a productive player, how is that a challenging matchup?
Well, I mean, we've seen great defensive ends before, and this will be another one that we'll have to game plan for. You have to make some decisions, right? Are you going to use a tight end to extend him out wider and give yourself a chance to, obviously, get him outside the pocket a little bit, and step up? Do you chip him with a back, with a tight end? Do you double him? All those things have to be factored in. Do you run away from him? Do you run to him? I mean, do you crack? Do you, do you option him? Look, we're not reinventing the wheel here against a great player. I mean, we have to take all those things into consideration, and we got to block him one-on-one too. I mean, that's the reality. We got some good players too, but we respect him, and he's a really, really good player, and we know where he is, and we have to game plan him. And it's kind of my original comments are: we know that he can be a game wrecker if you let him, and we have to make some decisions tactically to make sure that doesn't happen.
Our next question is from Tim O'Malley from Irish Illustrated. To follow up on Sibo Flemister, when did he begin to show you he'd be a contributor to this extent? And was it prior to August camp where you've been complimentary of his efforts?
Sibo started coming on in camp. It had been a progression. I think Sibo's always been a competitive person. There are different times when the light comes on. I think for Sibo, he clearly understood that he was going to get his chance when we saw more of those traits come to light. And I know you guys kind of like to not hear all this all the time, but the reality of it is he started to do the things that I needed him to do on a day-to-day basis. His attention to detail was better. His focus was better. His attitude was where I needed it to be. And it put him in the mix. And then he figured that out. He said, okay, I guess this is how I'm going to play. And he's been great, awesome. And I'm so proud of him because he finally said, okay, I'm just not going to play if I don't do these things. And so that's why he's playing, and I'm so happy for him.
Our next question is from John Finneran of the Associated Press. Could you give an update on players who may be out of the Wake Forest game because of injuries, for example, Hamilton, Skoranek, and any others?
Injuries. Well, Skoranek ran today. I think he's probably upgraded to day-to-day. And we'll see where he is tomorrow. We'll put him through a run progression. Well, he was in a run progression today. Tomorrow we'll put him in through some some more, I think, football-related drill work that assimilate his route running. And then if he feels good and he's not too sore after that, we'll probably have a conversation with our trainers as to whether that dictates a next level move. In other words, whether he gets to look at some practice. So day to day, that's kind of the procedure for all hamstrings. Hamilton, he looks pretty good. The expectation there is, that he would start to ramp it up and probably get into some practice this week.
Our next question is from Eric Hansen of the South Bend Tribune. In June, Dr. Leisler said that Notre Dame's COVID plan would evolve over time. How is the plan stronger now, and might daily testing of the entire roster, when it becomes available, improve it further?
Yeah, it's always an evolving situation. We're learning about things really daily about how to attack this virus, utilizing all of the procedures and protocols, including testing. The ACC has some protocols which you have to follow, right? You have to have, a PCR test 72 hours prior to. So, I think then you kind of go from there, right? So that probably means everybody has a Wednesday PCR test. Everybody's testing PCR on Friday by the conference. Then you kind of fill in the blanks from there, right? Do you follow a model of then antigen test every day? Do you antigen test and then follow it up with if you suspect anything? Do you follow it up with a PCR? So I think that's where the individual schools kind of then have some flexibility to do what they want to do. And from our standpoint, right now, certain segments of our team are getting tested every day. The higher risk areas, which are generally speaking, those that fall under the close contact, which would be the linemen, right? When you put that algorithm together, it's really distance, duration, and direction. And if you fall under those categories, you're generally coming up with linemen. And so we're testing those guys every day.
Our next question is from Lou Samoji of Blue and Gold Illustrated. According to Pro Football Focus, Cam Hart had 44 snaps at corner and Nick McLeod 14. Was that by design, Cam's progress, or just giving Nick a rest?
It was the latter. We wanted Cam to get as many reps. He needs a lot of work out there, and so this was a great opportunity for him, to get that kind of work. He was coming off of shoulder surgery last year, didn't have spring ball. This was a great opportunity for him to get those reps. And Nick, we wanted to kind of, he'd been getting a lot of work. So it was a great opportunity to kind of dial him back a little bit.
Our next question is shared by both Pete Sampson and Doug Farmer. We saw your halftime speech calling for a shutout as well as scoring every offensive possession, as you are tired of being, quote, the nice guy. What were you referring to with that phrase, particularly as it pertains to second halves? Yeah.
First of all, I didn't know that was going to go public. If I knew it was public, I probably would have articulated it a little bit differently. But having said that, what I meant is, first of all, we respect our opponents in everything that we do. So this had nothing to do with not respecting our opponents. This had everything to do with us in terms of how I wanted our team. We have a way of looking at 4 quarters of football, and we didn't we didn't start fast, and we did in this game. But I wanted to make sure we finished strong, and so the comments were really about finishing strong and emphasizing that regardless of what the score was, I didn't want any let up. I wanted our guys to have a mindset that we have to do so many things to get to Saturday. It's really hard with, all that's going on, that I didn't want our guys to get distracted anytime. I wanted him to stay locked in, stay focused, and get after it for 4 quarters. And again, great respect for our opponent, regardless of who it was. I could have said that against, any team. It was centered squarely on how I wanted our team to perform and finish what we started.
Our next question is from Nick Shapowski. Is Jack Kaiser threatening to Wally Pip some others at the buckbacker position after his strong showing on Saturday?
You're going to Wally Pip guys on offense, as far as I'm concerned. It was fun to watch him. He's a good player. We got a lot of good players that, when given the opportunity, will Wally Pip you. I think we've created a new phrase here, and that's a great thing. It's a tribute to him and being prepared. His preparation is outstanding, but we've got some other guys like that too. When they get called on, you look at Alex Ahrensberger. When he gets in there, he was playing nose guard all week on the scout team, and he gets in there defensive end and runs a great stunt. Technically sound. We've got some guys that have been very impressive, really locked in, and happy for Jack. And there'll be other guys that'll get their opportunity too, and they'll shine.
Our next question is from Lou Emoji of Blue and Gold. How is Tommy Tremble's role as a fullback different from previous H-back roles of tight ends, and do you like him as a ball carrier?
You got to give a little bit of sugar to those guys that go in and do the dirty work, and he's asked to do a lot of work that has been so effective in us being able to run the football. So, having a quick hit or something that hits real quick instead of 6-7 yards deep, when you're getting into short yardage, it's just smart football. And so having that play is something that you go to once in a while. But good. I mean, that kid is just selfless. He does whatever you ask him to do. He doesn't complain. If he catches a football, great. But if he doesn't, he wouldn't say a word about it. He just wants to win, and that's the kind of attitude he has. And it's great to have the opportunity to coach him.
Our next question is from Todd Burlage. Isaiah Foskey has made a big impact already in somewhat limited snaps. What do you like about his start to the season?
Well, I mean, he's a guy that makes plays. I mean, he's a playmaker. You just, whether he's playing the defensive end position or he's containing, a surprise, fake punt. He just is a playmaker. He uses his athletic ability. He's detailed. He's smart, and he executes, at a high level. So, you take all of the athleticism he has. It's no good unless you know what you're doing and you do it the right way. And he does that. So, again, good for him. He takes his role serious, and you can see that, with the way he plays.
Our next question is shared by a number of reporters. What kind of new challenges do road games give you due to COVID? And how will you be attacking road games differently this year?
Yeah. Well, we play at noon. I mean, obviously, if it's a later start, maybe you consider going the day of the game. You're trying to avoid as much contact with the outside your quote-unquote bubble as possible. We'll do everything as if this is a home game for Friday. In other words, we'll do all of our meetings, our practice, our post meetings that we usually do at the hotel will be done here. We'll eat here, and we'll simply board the plane, fly, and get in there in the evening, get off the plane, and go to bed to lessen the contact in the hotel. We'll just our guys will be in individual rooms and wake up in the morning, throw on a Superman cape, and go beat Wake Forest. That's how we do it. Now, we'll have breakfast. We do eat, and then go play. But you can see that we're trying to limit as much contact as possible.
All right. Thank you very much, Coach, for your time. That's all
Thank
we
you.
have.